All right, welcome back to Alpha DevCon. And we are now on the second of two app building demos. I'm here joined with Sarah Mitchell, Director of Customer Success, Scott Allen, our Senior Designer, and they are going to be tackling the second part of the Farmington application. So let's take it away. Hi, Sarah, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter. And I'm going to
All
drop
right,
off camera.
perfect.
And I'll
I'm
let
just
you know when I
cleaning
can
up a little
see.
bit here.
No problem.
Turns out we had a 15-minute break instead of a 30-minute break. I don't
It
know
was
what script
shorter
you're
than,
seeing.
yeah, got to keep you on your
Yeah.
toes
Do
sometimes.
you see Heidi sequel?
That's what I see.
All right. All right. So I have a very short presentation today. So let's get this started, and then we can go. So this is part 2 of yesterday's app build, which is based off of Farmington, or a fake company that connects people to farmers so they can buy all the good foodstuffs and buy local and all those good things. So yesterday, whoop, that's it. That's the whole PowerPoint. Review what we did yesterday. So yesterday we took a look at what our goal is. Farmington needs a dispatch application, and what they want is to have a backend interface that interfaces with their customer orders that they can then dispatch out to Transform, which they're using for their drivers to make the deliveries. And this is our end goal here. We want to build this interface where they can review the new orders, assign drivers, make sure they're getting the optimal route, and then dispatch those up to Transform. And then once it's up in Transform, having a way to review it and then close it, which would then bring down the data and save off the ship photo and signature if that was information that was captured. Otherwise, if the delivery wasn't completed, see a reason why, and then through another interface, reschedule that order to go out. And then finally have a summary section where they can review the orders, where they're at in the process of the cycle. So yesterday we built the new orders list, and we created a map, and we added the piece in that figures out the optimal route for a set of deliveries. So we'll take a quick look at that. So remember, we had this interface, and if we selected these rows and we routed our orders, it would compute the optimum route on our map over here, and then populate the stops for those selected orders here in our list. So one question that came up after the webinar yesterday, and it was something I neglected to cover, is that Google Map, if you want to use this map control, does require a Google Maps API key. And we do have documentation on that, on how you do that. For the driving directions one, I think you just need the directions service, part of the Google API JavaScript, Google Maps JavaScript API. But this documentation explains how you can go up to the consoledevelopers.google.com, make your API key, and then bring it down. And that API key for this project is being stored in my project properties. If you look at the map control, you will see that there is a setting to specify the Google Maps API key. I don't have it here because I don't want to expose it, which is why I've put it in project properties. So, but if you get your API key, set it in your project property, save it, you're good to go. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the map control does support route optimization. This is actually something I accidentally overlooked while setting this up, and sometimes you just cannot see the forest for the trees, I think is the saying. It might not actually be the correct saying that I need to use here, but anyway, you can turn on optimize route waypoints, and then if you use the let's add a button here real quick so I can show this to you. Let's call it test for now. If you go in here and you add a new Google Map action, Google Map method, okay. Down here, you select your map. There's an option to plot a route. And there are two types. You can do start and end address or multiple addresses. And then here's ID where you would place placeholder for driving directions. Now, there are ways to get the waypoints out of this action after it has been run. But what I've set up here and what we went over yesterday, we actually capture the waypoints during the call back from the API when it's giving us our results back. And I'm going to continue to leave that in this example. I do think there's value in knowing how to manipulate the map object with the Google API if there's something you want to do that maybe Action JavaScript isn't doing for you, or maybe you need to do things in a different order. But I just wanted to point out that you can do that with the map. One thing I did do yesterday before this presentation is I added the Save All button. And all this is doing is getting a pointer to our new orders list and saving all the in-place edits that have been made, and then saving the list back to the database. I just want to cover that real quick. I didn't want to walk through more than that to explain that, so that we have a way to save our data. Yes, having a save button is something that we cover quite commonly. So that's where we're at. And today what we're going to do is we're going to tackle that next tab. We're going to go to we're going to add the deliveries, and we're also going to add in the dispatch orders, which creates the transform forms up in Alpha Transform. And if you remember from yesterday, let's see, recent, our order form. Oh, did I not save it? Wait, I did. Nope, I didn't. I have pictures somewhere. We have an order form that's in Transform that has the first stop number for the delivery, contact information for the customer, what's in the order, and then a section to either confirm the delivery was made, capture our photos, and get a signature from the customer if they're available, or say you couldn't make the delivery and add an explanation why. So the first piece in all of this is to add a button that will create our transform forms. So I'm going to start by adding a new button here. Go to Add Control. And we're going to call this Dispatch Orders. Click OK. And for this, we're going to want to make an AJAX callback. So I'm going to create a new AJAX callback. And we're going to name it. One moment, please. Dispatch deliveries. I'm going to create a function prototype for this. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. I'm going to open up the XBasic function declaration section and paste it in. So this is ready for me to go and start adding in our server-side logic to do the dispatch to transform. Click OK. We'll save that, and then we'll go over to XBasic functions. So this today we're going to be doing a lot of XBasic, but most of the XBasic that we're going to be creating today, we're going to use Genies to create. So the first thing that I want to do is figure out what the query I need to make to populate the transform form is. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use, we're going to right click, go down to Genies and pick the Transform API Explorer, which gives us this window. And we have a whole bunch of API methods you can call on Transform that do all sorts of things like change the user's order in the account. That's the order of the users in your account, not user orders. Get the list of roles that are on the account, log someone in using transform credentials, so on and so forth. The one in here that we have one here for creating new form instances. So I'm going to type in create and find that new form instance. And this API requires a few things. It requires the ID of the form. It optionally requires the person you're going to send the form to, which we are going to use, and then it needs form data. Now, I'm using a slightly older version of the nightly build for this demo. In the next update of the nightly build, which I haven't installed yet because I've got this reliably working here and I wanted to use this version because I know exactly what's in it. There's going to be a button here that will let you populate this form data. I don't have that button right now, so I need to go figure that out differently. And the way that I found that was easiest to figure out what the JSON structure is for the form data was to go to transform. So I went to transform and I went to the management console. And at the time I didn't have any forms. So I clicked add new form. I clicked quick input and then I selected fields. And what this gave me was this data structure here that seemed to make a little bit of sense. So like we had a stop, destination, customer phone, ship photo, ship signature. Like these are my field names in these parentheses. And then down here, start group line items, order details. This is a nested array of entries for the data group that's in the form. And within each one, it can have a product unit price, quantity, and total. So I took that information and I manipulated it a little bit to get it into the format of a JSON object. And this is the format that I came up with. So order ID, employee ID, customer name, customer address, city, state, so on and so forth. And then order details being an array has an entry here for product price, quantity, so on and so forth. So if we make a short example here, I'm sorry, my cat's just jumped on my desk. Please get down, kitty. The form ID itself comes from the form's definition, which you set up on the designer tab. And if you look at this form, the form ID is this text right here. It's delivery, all lowercase. So we take delivery. Let's assign it to myself. And then come down here and let's enter in like one product. Red loaf. It's $5. I need one. One bread loaf costs $5. And let's also put, put that in there as well. And then test the results. So I got no error. So the error text is empty. And the result was there was one record added. And this is its form instance ID. Now, knowing this structure of the return is very important because we need to extract this form instance ID out of the data after we make the call. So we filed that away, save it for later in our minds. But if we go back up to transform just to check on the management console, we should see a second form up here. And that's the form that we just created right here. And there's our bread loaf. It's $5 and it was delivered by me. So this is what we need. So if you come over to XBasic, we can take this code here and copy it out to get our starting point. And I know you can see the API key. I will delete it later. So the post data that gets passed into this transform API query function is this block of JSON that's been converted to text. And inside here, there's a text string that's all of our JSON data. So initially, it might seem like it would be rather tedious to try to get our data out of our list into this format because we have to build up a JSON object and then escape everything and then add it to this text field and then put that into a JSON object. But there's another Genie that we can use that can call into our database to generate this structure for us. And there's not much that we have to do if we're clever about how we set up our query. So we're going to move this down. And next, we're going to go take a look at the SQL Query Genie. Which one is it? This XBasic SQL Actions Code Generator. And one of the options in here is a SQL database query to get hierarchical JSON data. This is the one we want to use. So I want to get a JSON object that basically has this structure here. And I want to get it out of this query, this builder. I don't want to have to like parse this data when it comes back and try to like finesse it into the structure I want. So I want to generate a JSON, generate a query that's going to create these field names so that when I get the data back, I can just give it off to another function to put it into the correct format for sending it into the transform query. And I'm going to do that by creating a custom SQL statement on 2 fields. So first we need to select our SQL connection string. And then we need to build out our query. So we're going to build 2 queries. The first one is our top level query. And this is the one that's going to have the order ID, the employee ID, the customer information, as well as ship date delivery notes. So we're going to pick orders because that's going to have some of the information we need. We also need to join in our customers table because it's going to have the customer ID in it. And then that's all we need to do in terms of setting up the database query because those 2 tables have everything that we need. And then we're going to go to columns and we're going to add all the things that we need specifically and rename it using the alias field so that when the JSON is generated, it has that name and not the name from our database. So I'm going to take out that one. And we need the order ID, which is the ID of the orders table. I'm going to rename it. We do not need employee ID. Let me double check. We don't need employee ID. I was wrong. We need one more table here. We need to add table employees. We want the transform ID from our employee. We want this value. So we're going to add that and we're going to call it employee ID. Then we'll go back to orders and add in the other fields that we need from there. So we needed the ship date. We need the stop because that's in our data. We'll call this one stop. We need the ship date, which is ship date. We want delivery notes. We want, I'm just checking over real quick to make sure I've got everything out here. I think that's all we want out of the orders table and the employees. So the rest of the information is in customers. So we want the customer's name, which is going to be an expression. So in our database, we're storing the customer's first name and last name separately. In our form, we're storing it as a single entry. So we're going to concatenate it together. And concatenate is a portable SQL function. We're going to add the customer's first name and last name together here and do an expression. Test it. Wonder why it didn't show us anything. And then give it a name. This is called customer name. And then we're going to add in their address. City, customer city, and the state. We also want to add their phone number. And we want their lat and lon information because we're going to use that to set the location field in our form. So that's also going to be an expression. We're going to concatenate these values as well. And they need to be joined together as a string with a comma between the latitude and longitude value, because that is the format expected by the location control and transform. Click OK. And then if you don't remember, we named our location control destination in our form. I am a little bit confused about why I'm not seeing any results here. But we'll click OK. And then we'll add one more query. So this query is a subquery. So it's going to be called after this one is called, but it's going to have some join data, but we don't define the join data in the Genie. We define it back here in this query property section. And all we want to here is simply just the order details. And we want to pull the product name out of products for the order details. And the columns that we want from here are just the product name, which is named product in our form. And then here we want unit, which is unit, price, which is called price in our form, quantity, which we're going to call quantity. Oh no, why did it do that? We want unit, price, quantity. All right, and then finally total, which is an expression of the quantity times price. So we need unit price times quantity. And then this one's called total. And click OK. Now we need to define some information here. We need to define a linking key to the parent data. So the linking key in our subquery is actually the order details, order ID. So I need to add that to my query so I have it. Let's go back and add that, order ID. So let's link this to our parent record. Our order details order ID links to the orders ID in the parent data. Oop. This is our order details section in our form, and that array has a very specific name, which was order details. Oh, let's double check real quick, actually. Let's go down to our data group, and yes, it's order details. This is the name of our array. And it's going to be linked on the parent linking key. I'm seeing an error here. Extra characters at end of expression. Let us quickly save these settings. And then I'm going to restart Alpha Anywhere, because that should not be showing me nothing. There we go. Here we go. We were in dispatch part 2. I apologize. I did not close Alpha Anywhere. So since yesterday, let's open that up. Let's load our settings that we just saved. Here we go. Preview the query. I'm not getting anything back. Fortunately, I saved this earlier, which is also not working. I'm slightly disappointed about this. Anyway, what we should have seen was an array of data coming from our database that was in the structure that we wanted, with the exception that our child arrays had the unit, the order ID in the subquery, and we don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to turn on do not repeat linking values in child arrays, and what that will do is it will still link this key data together with your top level array, but when the JSON gets generated, the order ID here, the linking key and the child data that is specified is not included in your child data, which is what we want. So I'm not entirely sure why this isn't showing us what we need. It definitely was working earlier. So I'm gonna go grab that generated code from my previous session and bring it in. This is why we make
So Sarah, here's a
backups.
comment that may be of use. The query might show nothing because as an inner join, because you have it as an inner join for a top level query.
Well, we can test that theory. Maybe I should make them left outer joins. We'll test that real quick. My backup plan, if we can't finish today, is to just paste in the whole thing.
Okay.
Well, okay, so except that the one that I saved was defined differently. It's not loading at all now. I'm not gonna worry about it. We can tackle that later.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, what we can do is this. Let's just copy this guy here and go over to web projects and make a xbasic file just so that you can see this running. New xbasic script. Paste it in. We don't want to return an alert. Let's do a show var. Show var, for those of you that don't know, is a desktop only or development environment only function. It's great to know how to use it when you're doing stuff like a local script, but you cannot use it in your web applications on the server. I'm very confused. Because this should not be coming back empty at all. Let's go take a look at orders and just step through the code instead. Because I don't want to spend the rest of our session trying to debug that. And I apologize that this has happened, folks. So let's in this example here, let's assign a driver to 3 records, and let's make the ship date Friday. And we will save that information, and then we'll select these 3 routes or 3 stops, and we'll route the orders, and we'll save that information. And now if we go and we check our database, we should see that in there.
Sarah, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is there a reason why there isn't a marker labeled A?
Oh, because A and E are the same spot. They're the
Ah,
United States, so they're overlapping each other. It's exactly the same
Ah,
spot, which is
yeah,
why you
someone was
don't see
asking
it.
about that.
Yeah, sorry. The
thank you
United
for
Someone
States
clarifying.
Postal Service is also Farmington.
Someone
Um,
also asked if you've got three things that you've selected, why are there 4 pins on the map? But I assume one of them is the origin, which is hard-coded. Is that correct?
yes, we can go quickly look at that real quick.
Sure.
So in addition to the waypoints, and I probably neglected to mention this yesterday, is there's also an origin and a destination, and they are the same spot. So those two locations are on the map in addition to all the intermediate waypoints. So there's technically, if I select 3 stops, there's 5 markers on that map. You just can't see one of them because they're exactly the same spot.
So the origin and the destination are where the truck is
Uh,
at the beginning of the
Yes,
day
this is
and at
where the
the end of the
facility
day.
is. You pick up everything, you do your route, you bring the truck back.
I got it. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
all
That's
right.
why you'd have A through E, with
Yes,
2 of them
so
being headquarters.
yes,
Thanks.
I'll put a debug 1 in here real quick. Go back to live preview. So we've updated those records. So they're going to show up in here. They have a ship date. In here, they have a ship date. They have an assigned stop. They've got an assigned employee. What they don't have yet is a form instance. And that's what dispatch orders is going to do when we click it. So we're going to go look at the code for that button. And what it's doing is it's making an HAX callback to call our dispatch deliveries function. And then it's doing all this stuff here. And I've put a debug 1 in the code so we can take a look at it. So if we click that button, we're going to get a break in the debugger. And unfortunately, we're going to walk through this the extremely hard way, and I'll explain exactly what's going on and how I made it. But basically, here's that code we were generating earlier. So there's our connection string. This was all generated for us. So that is going to get called. It's going to generate our JSON. We get our JSON back. And here's the JSON, which we should have been seeing in the debugger, but we were not. I don't entirely understand why. But let's copy that value and take a look at it in VS Code. So this is the data we got back. And I did want to point out that the setting on this function to prevent the child data from including that key, that linking key, is this ops.sparse option that we passed in. If it's set to true, it will strip out the linking key in the child data. So the information we get back, because we were smart about how we did the query, is in exactly the same data format that we need to populate the transform data. These are our field names and transform. These are the values we want in there. If there was no delivery notes, it's null, that's fine. And then we have our order details array that has the products that we want to add. Now, this is, in my opinion, a much smarter way to approach it than trying to do a SQL query and then mash everything into an array using maybe a dot variable and then converting it to JSON. But we will use some of those methods to get the data in the rest of our format, because the main structure of that call was there was a setting for the form ID that was being created, the form design basically that we want to create an instance of, and then person, which is who it's being assigned to, and then form data JSON contains all the values that we want to populate into the form. So I have some, just as a point of interest, I have this little piece of code here to handle an error. So had an error occurred, we would have pulled the error out, and I would have returned this JavaScript to alert an error, just so that I could see something happen and come here and fix it. In a running application and production, you probably want to log that out to the trace window or somewhere where you can access it independently from what the user sees and give the user a message like something's gone wrong, we can't complete the request, try again later, or contact your web developer or whoever it is that could help with that further. So we didn't get an error, so that's great. So the next step in all of this is what we want to do is, because this data that came back was all the orders that need to be assigned, and I'm realizing I forgot to mention one important thing here. Where is it? There's a where clause that I added in here. So we have this where clause in the original query on the parent data where our ship date isn't null, the employee ID isn't null, so it's been assigned an employee ID, and the form instance is null. We don't want to create a form instance for something that's been given a ship date if it already has one, because that would make duplicate data, and we do not want that. So we're just pulling out all the records using this where clause in our query that has been assigned a ship date and an employee, but not necessarily a form instance. We probably should also add a check in there to make sure the stop was assigned, but that's something that could be easily updated after the fact in post if you forgot to do that. So this next section, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we generate a call into the Transform API to create a form instance for each one of those 3 records that came back, because we only had 3 here that we need to generate records for. So the first thing that we're going to do is parse the orders into an object called orders. And what this will allow us to do is extract some information from it, such as the employee ID and transform that we need to assign this to, as well as generate a list of form instances and their corresponding orders that they were assigned to, which we can use later to update the database where these orders are stored with the form instance that was assigned to them. So that's what this array, this loop is going to do. We're going to convert our orders from JSON back into an object. We're going to build up a small list of IDs mapped to forms. We're also going to build up an array of any error messages that might occur. And then we're going to go through and build the post data object that we need for transform. We're going to convert it back into JSON. And then we're going to call the API. So this code here, the URL, the PR, this dialog helper thing, this was generated by the Transform API Explorer, as was this if else statement. I've modified it so that I can get the result out parsed as an object, so then I could reference the form ID and the form instance from the result. Because if you remember when we were looking at the API Explorer, there's a result comes back and it has some nested data that contains the form instance ID that was generated for the call. So we'll go ahead and step through this. And there's going to be a slight delay after the Transform API query because it's got to call out to the server and then come back. And then no error happens, so that's great. So we're going to get our result. So let's get our result. Here is result. It's got three properties in it: error text, error, and result. There was no error. So if we look at result, it's got the form instance ID, which is what we want to assign to this order ID, which we captured earlier when we did our query. So this is orders, we're on 1. So this order ID is going to be, if I can get to it, and I know this is very small and some of you can't read it. There we go. I want this order ID property. So this is going to create a new entry in the forms map array. That's what append does. It returns the index of what was created, and then I use that index to set the 2 properties in that array value. Step over that. And then we're going to run to this line and let the last 2 forms be created. And here we are. So let's take a look at our map. Oops. We don't need size. It's not a sub-element, it's a function. There we go. We see we have 3 entries in here. So we see that order ID has been assigned instance that text. Order ID 4 is this text. Order ID 5 is that text. And if we go look at transform, we will see our forms in there now. So go over to management console and hit refresh. We will see 3 forms assigned to Alicia, and that they have our stop information in them. Here's our line items that were created. We can view it. Let's look at this one. We'll pick export and we'll look at the form view. So this is a rendering of the form using the definition in the designer. And if we opened up the app, we would see something similar. So here's our delivery information. This is the stop number 2. This is the destination. I don't think the map shows up in this view. There's their phone number, their address. Here's the things that they ordered. And then down here is the confirmation section, which our driver needs to fill out on their end in Transform. So the next step, now that we've created those, is to add the mapping back into our database of those assigned forms so that information is recorded. So I'm just going to run this to this line so that executes rather quickly. And if we go look at our database, we should see those form instances have been assigned here. So these ones are null, and if we reload the data, here are the 3 form instances. So that's what we wanted. Our instances have been deployed, they're up in Transform. Our drivers can now go out on Friday to do the deliveries and then do a confirmation or a rejection of what of those deliveries. So at this point, I'm going to ask Scott to do something we did not rehearse.
Oh, goody.
Yeah,
What
so
did I
Scott,
expect?
yeah,
Yes.
so I need you to log into Transform
Okay.
as Alicia. And if we go look at her information, here we go. This is her email. It's alicia@example.com. ALLYCIA at. And if you can, her password is password. So Scott figures that out. Oh, Scott, what I want you to do is take a picture of something and sign for a form. And then submit it.
Hold on a second.
Thank you. While Scott's doing that, we'll go back here and we will finish our session in the debugger. So good news is all of that worked perfectly and there were no errors in our call. So that's great. There's nothing in here. So this section here would generate some log messages for the errors that had been encountered when we tried to do all this, because it might succeed at making one inform instance and fail at another. Internet connectivity can be sketchy at times. And then it generates this message here. If it found any, it says you get an alert that there was an error, and then otherwise it will just give us an alert that the orders have been dispatched. So
Sarah, where did you paste that login information for me?
Oh, I didn't paste it anywhere.
Oh, well, I would love to have that.
Okay. It's in Slack.
Okay, thank you.
Password is password.
Great.
So our orders were dispatched, which is great. So now that the orders have been dispatched, we can now start working on the next piece, which is looking at them in our form. So we're going to skip over this part here. I'm just going to go back here into our design and grab that function. Actually, I don't think we need it.
We'll call you.
Paste that there. Oh, I better get the whole thing.
They located form types and downloaded from the server.
Yes. There we go. So we'll put this in here so we have it in our form build. But what we're going to do next now is build the list that will pull the data from Transform. So we're going to add another panel card after. And this one we'll call review. And we're going to add a list control to it. We'll call this one dispatched. Click OK. And we'll go in here and we'll set up the list to be transform data source. So transform is a data source you can pick for lists. You can also pick it for reports. And here again, we need our API key information, which I'm going to go grab. I believe on the requirements for this stuff, when you have to create an API key in transform, which is on the home tab, but I believe this one requires that you have the all access in order to connect to it from transform. So I already have one prepared. We'll grab our form ID out of here. It's delivery, and return value type is field. We don't want all fields, we just need a few. So let's go pick the field we want to look at. We want to see employee ID. Want to see who was delivering it. Maybe some order date, some delivery notes, order date. I don't see order date. Let's grab ship date. Let's grab if the delivery is completed, the photo and the signature. The reason is whether or not, if the delivery wasn't completed, it's the reason why it wasn't completed. And we'll grab the primary key and the status as well. And let's also see customer name. Click OK. So those are the fields we're going to get. Don't think we need return field, so I'm not going to set that. But if we go to fields, here's what we're going to see, what we can access and put in our layout. So we're going to go add those to our layout. Let's add ship date, employee, was the delivery completed? If it wasn't, I'd like to see the reason right away. If it was, see the signature, the status. Let's also add in here, before status, the customer it was sent to. And go take a look at that.
Would you like to me to complete the order?
Yes, please.
Complete the delivery, I should say. Okay.
Yes, please. Let me know when you've done that. So very quickly, I was able to build a list to pull data out of transform, and we can see here the 3 orders that were added. We have our delivery complete. This stuff is all empty still because Scott hasn't finished any of these yet for me, and all their statuses are still open. There is 2 more records in here that are test records that I was using earlier to test a few things. We're going to ignore those. So what we want to be able to do here is have a button someone can click and say like close or approve, and when that gets clicked, it copies down the photo and the signature out of the record and puts it into our database back here into the order. So we have 2 fields for that, ship photo and ship signature, and that's what we want to populate. So
and you should see a form instance returned to you. Okay,
thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So first thing we want to add is a button to the form itself that they can click for that particular row. So we're going to add a button. We'll call it close. We want the button, text is fine. We're going to change the button text to close. And then we're going to add an on-click event to it. And what we want to basically do here is just make an AJAX callback to update the form record with the transform information. So I'm going to go back and we're going to look at orders at how I implemented that because I forgot to copy my notes out of here. Here we go. Whoop. Let's copy that out of there real quick. And go back in here to our button. So what I want to do is I want to make an AJAX callback when that button is clicked, which I didn't save. So I'll quickly recreate it here. There we go. I want to make an AJAX callback into an X basic function. I also want to send the ship photo and the signature, as well as the order ID and the form instance that we're closing. I don't want to send the whole entire list of data back. There might be a whole bunch of things on there. So we're going to build up those parameters to make the callback, but first we need to get the JavaScript to make the callback itself. So here you might see that this is a JavaScript editor. There's no AJAX callback action to add here. So you can't immediately seem to get access to that. However, we do have something called JavaScript actions, which lets you create an action that can be called, which you can build with action JavaScript. So we're going to call this one we're going to call it test because all we're going to use this for is to copy some code out. But I'm going to make this action. I'm going to edit action. I'm going to add a new AJAX callback because what I want is the we're going to call it finalized delivery is the function we want to call. What I want is the code that I need to send to make this callback, but I want to do some additional setup in the JavaScript for this button. Now I could make another JavaScript function and call that, but I wanted to show how you could use this to extract some code out to kind of jumpstart your development for other things. So we're going to click OK. And then I'm going to click View JavaScript. And this is what I want here. I want this line of code here that has the finalized delivery, oops, as well as all the other settings that were set up for me. So we're going to copy that out, cancel here. Nope. We're going to delete this action. We don't want it. And then we're going to paste it in here. So this has a whole bunch of stuff in it, including a server not available timeout handling and stuff like that, like these parameters we could pass in to the function for handling offline or server not responding, that kind of stuff. So this is the last thing we want to do on our button. But before we do that, we want to build up the parameters to pass in, which is our photo or signature, the order ID, and the form instance. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but down here in this help object for the onClick event, there's this little note that data is a pointer to the current row of data values. This button is going to be inserted in the list with the row that you're going to update. So that data variable is going to have the information that we want in it. So we'll have data.shipPhoto. We'll have data.signature, data.order ID, and I'm realizing I did not grab order ID from our data, so we'll form instance. These are the 4 things we want to send back with the call. It describes what order we're going to update, the instance ID that we're updating from, and then the photo and the signature. Now, if you've never made an AJAX callback before using JavaScript, it's a really important thing to know that you need to build up URL parameters. And we have a function you can use to build URL parameters. Here we go. And it will encode them into the format that it needs to be to pass it in safely to the callback. And this is your basic setup. You create an array, you add each of your parameters that you want to pass in, which are available as variables on the e-object on the server side. And then you join them together using an ampersand, which is how you specify multiple variables in a query. It's similar to the stuff you see up here in the URL for our website. So we're going to build ajax.build URL param, and this is in the autocomplete here. So we want one for ship photo, as well as the signature, order ID, and the form instance. And I'm going to duplicate this. and just add in the signature here, order ID here, form instance. And then the last thing that we need to do is make a query string. Join. So that's all we need to do to build the query string. The last thing we have to do is pass that into the function. I happen to know that this parameter right here is the additional data to submit, which needs to be in the form of a query string. So we'll add our query string there. And so that's all we need to do to make the callback. I'll save that. Let us check that real quick. Error is on line 3. I need closing parentheses on these guys. I always forget to do that. And semicolon. Whoop. Put one there. There we go. And then real quickly, I'm going to go back to our data source and grab our order ID. Whoop. Okay. So there is order ID. So let's go add our button to our layout. And because I am running out of time, we are just going to go grab the function that I built earlier for our finalized delivery. So we'll go to xbasic functions, come down to finalized delivery, done here and add it. And then what this is doing is it's reading the values we've passed in here. So we got an e.form instance is that variable we created in our JavaScript in the parameters that we're passing in. And we can turn on the debug one statement to look at that. So we're going to read out the form instance. We're going to read out the ship photo and ship signature, and we're going to put them in this values object with the same name. Because what we want to use is the SQL update function, which is a very nice function to use to update a record in a database. And what it takes is your connection string, the table you want to connect to, a JSON object that lists the properties and the fields and the properties you want to update. And the primary key that you're going to go against, we're going to go against form instance. We're going to update the record that has the matching form instance ID. We could use order ID here as well, which I'm realizing the order ID was redundant and we probably didn't need it. And so that's going to make this, that's going to call, it's going to update it. If it doesn't succeed, you can get that information out of this error object that gets returned, which will tell you either it failed, or if it didn't fail, then we want to go back through our Transform API Explorer and update our transform form status, which using the API Explorer, you can find the code for that one. This lets you update a form instance's status. It takes 2 URL parameters. One is the form instance ID, and the other one is what status you want to set it to. And then it's the same Transform API query to post the data. So let's go live preview this. Keep this guy over here on the side just in case. If we go to review, there's our form. I neglected to set that, specify that ship photo was a photo field, otherwise we would see the photo here. But if we click on this close button, the debugger will open because I put a debug one statement in here, but we can walk through and see what's in here. So we look in E, and it's possible I forgot or did not forget, had a typo when I was setting stuff up here. Scroll down. Let me see here. So here's our ship. Sorry, I clicked on it. Here's our photo or signature or order ID. The one that I'm not seeing is our form instance. So I think I might have forgotten to include that using the same name that I wanted. So let's quickly halt and go back and look at that. Oh, if it's crashing now, it's not going to work. There we go. Form instance not found. So let's go look at our button real quick to make sure why. And it's because we called it metadata form instance. There we go. Okay. Okay.
While you're here, do you want to fix the picture field?
Oh, too slow. I don't mean to run over today, but we're really, really close to finishing this up. So let's go back here to dispatched and fix the picture field. We'll just go to fields here and we'll change the photo from a label to an image. And that's all we need to do. We can look at the layout here. Might need to re-add it. Click OK. And let's try working preview because I hear a rumor it's slightly faster to load. So we go to review. There's our photo. It looks like we sent plain bagels and not bread, but we'll close it anyway. And we'll step through
It's the
here.
closest thing I had.
I don't know why it's doing that. Oh gosh. I've made a tactical error somewhere. All right, so we have push, 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 push. Query string. I'm scratching my head because I'm not seeing what I'm missing. Because it should be there. Oh, I think I forgot the ID on it, form instance ID.
It is, you know what? Someone just wrote in with that with the exact same comment. It's
Thank you,
form
Selwyn.
instant, not form instance ID. Oh my goodness.
2 minutes over time, thank you.
That's what happens when you're under pressure, right?
Yeah, it was that bit in the middle I didn't expect to fail. So
Yeah.
there it is. There's the form instance. That's what we want to see. So we're going to grab that
Fantastic.
data. We're going to set up values. We're going to put values into the JSON format that SQL update wants, which we are not going to look at because it's got image data in it. We're going to step over that. There's going to be delay as it makes a callback to the database. It won't fail because I've tested this and this one works. And then the last thing that we're going to do is update that form status in the database. It's going to refresh the list of deliveries so that we can see that update. And we come back here now. Well, if I click the run button, if it updates, please tell me it worked. There it is. So this has been closed.
Right.
This is now closed. So this has been how you can do it. Now, I don't think we're going to get to that last piece here that I was showing folks. And there's so much more in here that I wanted to talk about. But this all orders thing is just the database query against that orders table. And then we created it as a Kanban layout. And that the settings down here specify we're using the order status is the category. So if it's new, scheduled, or delivered, ordered status is a calculation that's in the query. I can send that out afterwards. And the other thing that we did in here is we have a return false and the on move, so you can't move the data around because it's just for informational purposes. And the layout itself is one of the Kanban layouts, and the removed yeah, so it's one of the Kanban layouts. I think. No, it's not one of the Kanban layouts. I went in and I went to a list that had a freeform view, and in the predefined templates, I pulled out one of the ones that has the left right order. So you can't see them here, but I grabbed that template to use here. which brings me to a feature request I was going to put in to ask to list those in there in addition to the Kanban layouts, since someone is here.
Makes sense.
Because they're quite useful. So you know, here's that. It's one of those where it's like level 1, level 2, level 3 would be delivery notes. See how it's in the light gray, and then it had like a little thing that floated on the side that I just removed. But here's that layout. So 3 are new, 2 were scheduled, 1 has been delivered and completed. And that's the whole order system. And with that order system done and in place, we can then plug it into the Farmington framework, which I'm going to live test here for you guys, which is so much larger. And everyone will have full access to this after the fact. But yeah, we can certainly ask questions at this time. I wanted to give people a high level overview of what's in here. This is ultimately the portal. The piece that we focused on today was this orders piece that give people the ability to dispatch to transform and so on and so forth. But there's a few other things in here, and ultimately we decided not to discuss it during DevCon because we kind of did most of this stuff already at DevCon last year, just in a slightly different format.
Mm-hmm.
But like, here's our farms, and there's all the items, and we do have a much wider selection of farms this year.
Cool. So we're going to get this as an example, huh? Fantastic.
Yes. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that this is informing all of our learning content moving forward on learn.alphasoftware.com. If you do not know about that yet, you are certainly encouraged to go and join and sign up. I want to take all this stuff here and use pieces of it to build out new courses. So there's 3 on this page, but there's a lot of stuff in here. We've integrated the giant killer training stuff. Yep. And there are more lessons coming down the road, not only for Alpha Anywhere, but Alpha Transform as well. And I'd love to have you guys come in here and give us your feedback.
There are free courses, sign up for them.
There are a lot of free courses.
And I think we're probably going to distribute some of this DevCon content that way. I mean, you
yes, this is how we're going to do it. Yeah.
Charge for you, but for the time being,
yeah.
we're putting those videos up on the calendar until we officially move them into the course place.
Yeah.
So if you do want to watch them, you can go back and look at those.
Yep.
Hey, Sarah, thank you. And Scott, thank you very much for doing the Farmington example. That is terrific. We are out of time, unfortunately, but it looks like we got it done in the nick of time, which is great. So that concludes our day today of Alpha DevCon. We will be starting tomorrow morning with Analytics Session 3 at 9 a.m. And I hope to see you all there. So thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.